Hello there, my name is Valerie, and today I'm excited because I'm going to be doing my very first ever book haul video. I haven't done one yet because I really don't need to be buying many books, if any. I have quite a few books that I own that I haven't read yet, but I made a few exceptions recently, particularly for a used book sale that was going on at my local library. So the first book that I got recently was The Scorch Trials by James Dashner. This is a sequel to The Maze Runner. This is the second book in the series. I think it's a trilogy, and there's a prequel. I read The Maze Runner maybe a month and a half to 2 months ago. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite dystopian novel ever, but I enjoyed it enough to know that I wanted to read the sequels. And the problem with that, though, is that the library had a very long waiting list for it. So yeah, I didn't want to wait so long to read the sequel that I had to go back and read The Maze Runner again to figure out what was going on, because I do that a lot. So I went ahead and bought The Scorch Trials since I saw it at the store. I bought it maybe 3 or 4 days ago, and I'm already, I don't know, like 2/3 of the way done with it. One thing that can be said for James Dashner's novels is that they are page turners. So far, I almost think I might like it better than The Maze Runner so far, but I don't know. I think it'll depend on how it ends, and I'm really worried about that. But I will probably say more about this book in my November wrap-up. So that was the only book that I bought at a store for full price. 9 of the other 10 books that I got were from the used book sale at my local library. I got 9 books for a total of $7. Seriously, if you aren't sure if your local library has some kind of Friends of the such and such library book sale occasionally, you should look into that. The first one I got was The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. I've seen this book everywhere. I really didn't remember what it was about when I picked it up. I just thought, I've heard of that book. I've heard it's good. I'll get it. So I got it. So yeah, I don't really know much about this book. According to the back of the book, it's about a young girl and her stand-in mother who go to a town in South Carolina in 1964 where they're taken in by what the book describes as a trio of black beekeeping sisters. So I didn't realize there were actual bees in this book, so that'll be interesting. But I thought I'd give it a shot. So the second book I picked up was Interpreter of Maladies by, I'm gonna butcher this name, I'm so sorry, Lahiri. This is a collection of short stories, and I've seen a lot recently I've seen a couple of videos about this particular book on BookTube and several videos about just short story collections in general, and aside from Agatha Christie books, I don't really read any short story collections, and I like Agatha Christie short stories, so I thought I'd give this one a shot. I'd heard of it before, like I said, and I feel like even before BookTube I had heard of this book. I think probably because it's won the Pulitzer Prize, so I'm sure this will be very interesting. One other thing I wanted to mention about this book, which may become more apparent as we get through some of the other books in this stack, is that something I've seen on BookTube recently and just online in general, which makes me really happy, is a conscious decision by people to try and read more diversely. When I saw that, I thought, oh, that's great. And then I started doing the math of like going through my Goodreads account and looking at the books that I've read and their authors and realized, oh my God, 90% or something of the books I read are by white people. So this is part of my effort to read more diversely, because I do think it is important to read from a variety of different people and backgrounds. The next book I picked up at the book sale was The Great Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This one was pretty much just for fun. I feel like I had a Sherlock Holmes book at one point, like in junior high, and probably got rid of it for some reason. I don't know. But I got this one because I've been watching Sherlock and I like murder mysteries, and this just sounded like fun. The next book I got is probably a little controversial. This book is called A History of God, The 4,000-Year Quest of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam by Karen Armstrong. I do consider myself a progressive Christian, but I mainly just thought this book looked interesting, you know, as a Christian and also just from a historical standpoint. I feel like I had this book again at one point, but it was a giant hardcover version and it was just really unwieldy to read, so I got rid of that. And then I saw this much more manageable paperback at the book sale and thought, oh, maybe I will actually read it this time. So I have another book by Karen Armstrong, and I've heard good things about her and about this book, so it's kind of long, but I'm just really interested in the history of religion, so I thought I would pick this up. So the next book I got was something I had never heard of before. I don't do this very often where I pick up a book that I've never heard of before, but I kind of made an effort to do that at this book sale. This is called Longitude, This True Story of a Lone Genius Who Solved the Greatest Scientific Problem of His Time. And it's by Dava Sobel. And basically it's exactly what it says it is. Before the 1700s, apparently, people had no way of knowing what longitude they were at when they were traveling by sea. And so they issued a challenge to come up with a way of figuring that out. So someone did it, and I really think that sounds interesting. So it's a short book, it's not very long, so it was 50 cents, so I thought I would pick it up. The next book I got at the book sale was The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. I had also heard of this book many times and didn't really know much about it. Yeah, I really didn't know much about it at all, but I've always heard excellent things about it. I read the back of the book after I got home, and I'm even more excited about it now. It just sounds really interesting, although I kind of wish I hadn't read the second summary on the back from the Washington Post, because it's totally a spoiler, so I kind of stopped reading and have kind of forgotten about what it said. But the first blurb on the back was very interesting, and I think I'm going to really like this book. Probably one of the books I was most surprised that I managed to get at the book sale was The Tale of, is it Genji? Genji? The Tale of Genji by Lady Murasaki. And I had heard about this book a long time ago, and had always known that this is considered to be the first novel ever written, which really, really intrigued me. Also, I don't know if I've ever, sadly, read any literature from Japan, so that's another exciting part about this book. One thing I was a little disappointed to find out is I didn't realize until I got the book home that it's a series. This is part 1. It says, the first novel, complete and unabridged, of Lady Murasaki's classic sequence of novels of 11th century Japan. If I end up liking this book, then I'll probably get the sequels. Hoping I can get them for free on my Kindle, which I think is very possible considering that this is a 1,000-year-old book and it's probably public domain by now. Other than this being the first novel ever written, I have no idea what this book is about, so I'm very curious to find that out. So the last 2 books that I got at the book sale were also ones that I picked up having never heard of them before. So the first one was 3 Bags Full by Leonie Swan. The cover just intrigued me because it's so colorful, and I thought, what in the world is this book about? And then I looked at the back of it, and the top says, a witty philosophical murder mystery with a charming twist. The crack detectives are sheep, determined to discover who killed their beloved shepherd. So, I mean, you had me at the detectives are sheep. Like, I feel like I need to read this book to find out how this is. I just really like books that are original, you know? Like, I feel like there's probably not another book about sheep murder mystery detectives. That's why I liked The Big Over Easy so much that I read last month. You know, it's a murder mystery, but it's a really different take on it, and that was what, aside from the obvious humor, that was what made me excited about this book, was that it's something very different. And the last book that I got at the book sale, because I just wanted to get some science fiction, but they didn't have any that I'd ever heard of. This is Omega by Jack McDevitt, and I've never heard of Jack McDevitt, I've never heard of Omega. This is apparently, I didn't realize until later, this is the 4th in a series. But the back sounded interesting. It's about, I'm not really sure, something about a storm and like trying to stop a storm on another planet without telling the other planet they're there. It's like a prime directive kind of thing from Star Trek. So it seemed really interesting, and I hardly ever read books that take place in outer space, so I just thought I would pick up something different. So the last book that I got recently, I got through a website that is one of the main ways I've been getting books for the last year. I stumbled across it in January. It's called paperbackswap.com. Basically, it's a site where you can trade books with people online, and all you pay for is the cost of shipping your books. So it's pretty great, and I've gotten an embarrassing number of books from it. But the one I got recently was We Wish to Inform You That Tomorrow We Will Be Killed with Our Families by Philip, again I'm going to butcher this name, Gorovich? Philip Gorovich. And this is a book that I would never have heard of, I'll admit, if it hadn't been for John Green. He mentioned it on one of his vlogs. I don't even know how long ago. I think it was a long time ago, actually, now that I think about it. And the title just stuck with me because, I mean, one thing, what kind of title is that? So this is a nonfiction book about the genocide that happened in Rwanda in 1994, which I vaguely know about, but don't really know much about. So again, I'm really interested in reading diversely and also learning more about other countries. One thing I'm really wanting to do soon is read more about histories in Africa and Asia in particular, because it's so sad how our history books, at least in American schools that I went to, are almost exclusively American and European history. I know that, you know, there were various dynasties in China and, you know, civilizations in Africa, but I don't really know anything about them, and it makes me really sad. I just feel like there's a lot of histories and cultures and people that, as Westerners, we don't hear much about. And I want to remedy that by reading more books about those things. So this is another part of that. So yeah, I got a lot of books. I probably won't have any other book haul videos soon. I have a few more that are coming from Paperback Swap, so I might do a short video on those. I think there's 3 or 4 that are still coming from Paperback Swap, so maybe I'll do like a mini book haul on those. But other than that, pretty much until Christmas, I'm not buying any more books. So I'm really excited about all the books that I got. I like that I was able to get kind of a range of different genres and definitely of time periods. So that's all I have for today. The next video I post will probably be my video series I'm starting on my favorite authors, which the first video is going to be about Agatha Christie. So stay tuned for that coming up soon, and have a great day. The next book I got at the book sale was The Joy Luck Club. Why can I not say club? Joy Luck Club.